Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name's Megan, and I'm going to be talking to you about all things penguin as we watch the little penguin, the world's smallest species of penguin, crossing the beach here on Summerland's beach, coming from the water just in front of us, making their dangerous dash and heading up into the dunes that we can see just here. Now, tonight I'm joined by Heather. Come say hi, Heather, and tell us what you'll be doing tonight.
Hi everyone, I'll be monitoring the YouTube questions and I'll be telling you how many penguins crossed the beach last night, and that number, folks, is 2,187.
Wow, 2,187 penguins last night. So for those of you who tried to count them last night, try and see who was the closest. Hopefully some of you got close. It looked like there was lots and lots of penguins last night, so that lives up to the numbers we think we saw last night. Thank you, Heather. So as Heather said, she will be monitoring the questions on YouTube, and she'll be feeding some of those through for me to answer tonight. But do keep putting your questions through on Facebook as well, and we will be getting some penguin rangers to go through those questions and answer those within the next 24 hours. So put through all of your questions, all of your feedback on Facebook and YouTube. And if we don't answer your question tonight, tune in again tomorrow night and every other night after that. I'm sure we'll probably answer your question eventually. Now, we are joining you tonight from Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And we are looking out onto the beautiful Summerlands beach. So we'll have a little bit of a look over to the water here, and this is where our penguins are going to be coming from tonight, out of the open ocean here, out from Summerland Bay in Bass Strait. Now, here on Phillip Island, all of these lands that we are looking at are the traditional lands of the Boonwurrung. So this land is also known as Millau, and the Boonwurrung have been coming here for thousands of years. They would have been the first people seeing penguins cross the beach here on Phillip Island, and they spent many, many years caring for and living off the land here on Millau. So I would like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians, the Boonwurrung, and their elders past, present and emerging, and thank them for all the work they've put into looking after this beautiful land here on Millau. If you know where you're joining us from, if you're here in Australia or somewhere else around the world and you know the traditional custodians of the land that you are on, put those in the comments. We love to see where everyone is joining from and the outpouring of support for our traditional custodians. Now, this beautiful land here on Millau, we are very lucky here at Phillip Island Nature Parks that we are able to manage about 20% of this land. So we do look after the Summerland Peninsula, where we have our colony of about 32,000 little penguins. So not just the penguins you see here at the Penguin Parade, the colony extends up to our right here for about another 3 kilometres. So we look after this beautiful peninsula and the penguins that call it home. We do also manage our koala conservation reserve, where we are currently caring for some koalas that were affected by our recent bushfires here in Victoria. We also have Churchill Island Heritage Farm, the Nobby Centre, a colony of about 20,000 Australian fur seals, and many other beautiful parks, reserves and walking tracks, and some of the southern coast, which you can see right out in front of us here. So these are all the beautiful areas that you guys are helping us protect by supporting us here at Phillip Island Nature Parks. And there's many ways you can support us. One way, if you're at home, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation. You can become a penguin pal or adopt a penguin. You might be able to get one of these cute little stuffed penguins to call your own, or you can just make a donation. And this week, we are very excited that we've actually been able to welcome visitors back to all of our sites, not just here at the Penguin Parade, also at the Koalas and Churchill Island. So if you do live in regional Victoria, you are able to come visit us. And we're hoping that in the not too distant future, we will be able to welcome back the rest of Victoria, the rest of Australia, and eventually the rest of the world. So we are looking forward to seeing all of you when we can. But for now, we hope you're all enjoying these penguin live streams. And tonight we do have a very special shout out to one of our long-time watchers, Jack Franklin in Beaumaris. So he's living in Melbourne. He usually spends his birthday every year here at the Penguin Parade with our little penguins, but this year he can't be here. So I would like to wish Jack a very happy birthday from us here at Phillip Island Nature Parks and from all the penguins. Huck, 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 Jack. We're looking forward to welcoming you back here when we can. Now, let's have a little bit of a look out in the water and we'll see if we can spot any penguins getting ready to come in. Now, I think tonight might be quite different to last night. So if you did tune in last night, our penguins had already crossed the beach a good 15 minutes ago because it was very dark, very stormy, and the penguins are waiting until it gets dark to come in. And if you can see this light on the water, that's not the sun, that is the moon. And it's disappeared out of shot, so I can't show it to you, but that bright light is the moon. So how is the moon and the weather looking for us tonight, Heather?
So tonight, folks, we have a full moon, which is what you're viewing on the water. A very special night to be here, seeing a full moon, and we have a bit of a westerly wind, a great temperature. So it's a beautiful night here at Summerlands Beach.
Definitely sounds a lot nicer than last night, Heather. A beautiful full moon and a nice warm westerly wind. A bit nicer to be out here than being huddled in the rain last night. So our penguins will probably come in a little bit later tonight. So we'll keep an eye out on the edge of the water. And someone else who's keeping an eye out for our penguins is our penguin counter, Sally. So if we head back up to the main beach here, you can see that little white commentary box. And that's where Ranger Sally is sitting with a pair of binoculars, watching the water, waiting for that first group of penguins to arrive because she is our penguin counter for this evening. So she is waiting for those penguins to come in so that she can count each and every one of them for 50 minutes. Just with a pair of binoculars. So she has a challenging night ahead. So send Sally all of your love. When they do arrive, you can try your hand at penguin counting as well. Maybe if you're really good at it, one day you can come work for us here at the Penguin Parade and help us count the penguins. We have been doing this penguin count since about 1968. So it is a really long-term bird study that we have here on Phillip Island. Something we're really proud of and something that tells us a lot about what our penguins are doing. And we'll have a bit of a look out at the water again and we'll see if we can spot any penguins. And the penguin numbers, they do change a lot depending on the time of the year and even night to night. So as Heather said, we had over 2,000 last night, but that can fluctuate quite a bit. In the middle of winter, that's when our penguins are actually spending up to a month out at sea. So we don't have as many penguins coming in. We might see a couple of 100 penguins crossing the beach in winter, but you guys have tuned in at a great time of year because spring and summer is when we get the biggest penguin numbers because they are in their breeding season. They're having to come in more frequently to sit on their eggs and feed their chicks. So it is a very, very busy time here in the penguin colony at the moment. And I believe that I can spot some rafts. So if you have some good eyesight, we might try and zoom in a little bit. So a raft of penguins looks just like a black line on the surface of the water. So if you can see, there's looks like 3 rafts out there getting ready to come in. So a raft of penguins is all those penguins, and they've been out there for the last couple of hours forming these rafts. So what you can see there is all their little heads bobbing on the surface, having a look around, waiting till it gets dark. And as they're doing that, they are talking to each other. They're going, huck, 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 saying, hey guys, is it safe? Are we ready to cross? Gathering in their groups, getting as big a group as they can to make them feel a little bit safer as they cross the beach. Because crossing the beach tonight is the most scary part of a penguin's day. So they are a little bit nervous. They'll get as big a group as they can because if they have a nice big group, they are a little bit safer because they do have safety numbers. They are very well camouflaged when they're in the water, so we can only see them right now because there are just so many penguins in those rafts. And we do have a relatively calm ocean out there. but they're usually very, very hard to see in the water. It's just as soon as they pop up out of the water onto the sand that they are quite conspicuous, and that means they're easier to see for predators. So these penguins, because they are so small, they have to worry about birds of prey. So big birds like sea eagles, Pacific gulls, sea eagles, I said that one, swamp harriers, big birds like that that might want to make a little penguin into a snack. So that is why they come in groups, and that's also why they're waiting until it gets dark. So right now, these rafts that we can see, they're getting closer and closer, and they are looking at the horizon where our camera is, waiting for it to get just a little bit darker. So that's why this time does change each night, because the penguins, they don't have little watches on their flippers. They are just looking at the horizon, waiting till it gets dark. So as sunset gets later and later, our penguins will start getting later and later, just depending on when the sun is going down. And they will head out in the morning. They will go back out into the ocean an hour or two before sunrise. So penguins are quite interesting that they're nocturnal on land, but they're mostly diurnal in the water. So that means they're active during the day when they're out at sea, but when they're on land, they're active at night. And that's because of those predators that might be active during the day here on land, those big birds of prey. And they are getting closer and closer. It looks like we have a lot of penguins in those rafts. So Sally might have her work cut out for her counting these guys when they do arrive. And our penguins, they are very, very good at avoiding those natural predators, so birds of prey. But some of you might know that penguins are vulnerable to some introduced predators, which we have had some problems with here on Phillip Island. So we did used to have a really big problem with foxes here because penguins have no defense against any predators when they are on land at night. One fox could kill up to 40 penguins every night. So something that we've managed to do here at Phillip Island Nature Parks to help protect our little penguins is actually get rid of all of the foxes on Phillip Island. So we've been officially fox free for about 3 years now, which is something that's really, really exciting. And it's been really fantastic for our little penguins and all of our other wildlife here on Phillip Island. And something else that may threaten our penguins here on land is also cats. So if you do have a pet cat and you want to help protect our wildlife like our little penguins, one thing that you can do is to keep your cat indoors at night or keep your cat on your property. And of course, another thing you can always do to help our little penguins is to help support our Penguin Foundation. It looks like they're going to keep us waiting tonight, so I might see if we have any questions, Heather.
We do have a question, Megan. What month do the penguins molt?
Oh, that's a very good question. What month do the penguins molt? So some of you might not even know that penguins do have to molt. So they are birds and they have very special feathers that allow them to spend lots and lots of time out at sea. So these penguins can spend up to a month out at sea and their feathers are very special and very waterproof. And that means that if they lose some of their feathers, they're not going to be so waterproof and they're not going to be able to spend a lot of time out at sea. So what they have to do when they need a new set of feathers, they have to undergo what we call a catastrophic molt. So they have to lose and replace all of their feathers all at once. And since when they lose some feathers, they're not waterproof, they have to do all of that molting here on land. So they have to spend a few weeks on land losing and replacing all of their feathers. And that means that they can't go out at sea to a sea for a couple of weeks. And the ocean is their supermarket. So when they're here on land molting, they can't get food. So to prepare for the molt, they have to more than double their body weight. So if you think some of the penguins that we see coming in tonight look a little bit chunky, imagine them twice the weight they are tonight. So they usually only get to about 1 kilo. During the molting period, we can have penguins that are over 2 kilos. Sometimes they're so fat that they can't even walk upright. They're just lying down on their bellies, pulling themselves along with their flippers. So it is a very funny time of year to be here. And the molting happens after the breeding season finishes. So usually around January, February, the breeding season comes to an end. The penguins will spend a few weeks out at sea fattening up, getting ready for the molt, and then molting usually starts to happen around February and March. So even though early next year we might not have lots of chicks around, you'll be able to come here and see those big fat molting penguins. And I think molting might be my favourite time of year, maybe even more so than the breeding season, because those big fat penguins, they are so big, they're so grumpy, they're fat, they're itchy, they're tired, and they are hilarious to watch. And it looks like we have our first raft approaching, almost at the edge of the water. Yep, and we've just had confirmation from Sally that they're on their way. And oh, there's a few penguins that have just popped up out of the water. I'll zoom in on them. These guys are very brave to be here all on their own. The penguins are quite late tonight, so maybe they were getting a little bit impatient. They didn't want to wait for the rest of that big raft. We have 3 little penguins there. That's not so hard to count. I can count those. So you can practice trying to count your penguins with these little guys, but there is a big lot on their way just behind them. So these 3 penguins, they don't look like they're going to be very confident. They're not going to try and cross on their own. At least I don't think they will. They're probably going to wait for a few friends before they do make that dangerous dash across the beach. And these are Raft of Penguins that we see coming in, saying they're friends, but they're not actually friends. These penguins might not even know each other. They're definitely not related. It's just kind of like people catching the train home from work at the end of the day. So they're just penguins that want to come home at the same place. They want to come home at the same time. They want to come back to the same place, and they just group together for convenience. So this is like a little, oh, there's a big group coming in. The train is about to arrive at the station, and all the little penguins are going to hop out and start making their way home. You can see them splashing through the water. They might even try and catch this wave in and surf to the beach. That looks like a massive raft just arriving. Wow. So we do call them a raft in the water. Now they're on land. You can call them a group if you want, but we really love to call a group of penguins on land a waddle. And that is a massive waddle for all you waddle watchers out there who join us each night. That is probably one of the biggest rafts I've seen in a very long time, just arriving on the beach there. And it's probably because they have come in a little bit later, so they've all been waiting out there. They've been grouping together more and more penguins, and now they've decided that it looks safe enough to cross the beach. I'll zoom out a little bit and we'll try and get this whole group in, because it is massive, and they, oops, sorry. Try and get them in the middle there. There we go. And they're not waiting for anything. They have so many penguins in that group. They don't feel scared at all. They are just rushing across the rocks. And they do like to use these rocks as a bit of camouflage. So when they get in the rocks, it does make it a little bit harder to count them. So it's a bit more difficult for Sally counting these penguins through the rocks. But the penguins do like the rocks because it does give that bit of added camouflage, so that if there is a predator flying around overhead, it will make it a little bit difficult to see them in the rocks. If they get scared, they might lie down in the rocks and pretend that they're a rock. But if they do get a big fright, they might even run right back into the water where they feel safe. So Sally will be waiting for these penguins to get about halfway across the beach, which they're probably at about now, before she starts to count them, because that's when we're confident that they're not going to run back in the water. And I say we're confident, but it's never 100%. One night I was out here counting the penguins, and they got all the way up to the rocks here, and I thought I'd counted them perfectly until a goose flew down. And it scared a lot of the penguins onto land, a lot of penguins onto the beach. I couldn't tell you how many went each way. So it can be a little bit difficult. The penguins don't always do what you expect they're going to do, but usually once they get to this point, there's no turning back. This is the point of no return for these little penguins. But they're not going to be too worried because they do have that big group that they're crossing in tonight. And if you think you have counted or you want to have a bit of a guess as to how many penguins is in this first group, Sally might let us know. If she's not struggling to count all of these penguins, she might be able to let us know how many was in this first group, and you can try and see if you're the closest. And really, what gives them away when they are on land is their little white bellies. And you'll notice that our little penguins here, they are blue and white. And they are the only species of penguin that does have blue feathers. Every other species of penguin, all of those bigger penguins, are actually black and white, and our little penguins are the only ones that have those beautiful blue feathers. So in New Zealand, they can actually get called blue penguins or little blue penguins. You might have also heard them called fairy penguins. All of those different names, that is our little penguin. And these very special colours, this blue and white coloration, helps these guys survive out in the ocean. And this is what's called countercoloration. So when they're floating on the surface of the water, like when we saw them out in their rafts, their blue back, that's a bit of a tongue twister, blends in really well with the surface of the ocean. So if there's any predators flying overhead when they're in the water, the penguins are really hard to see. But if you're looking up at them from below, their little white tummies blend in with the sky. So they're hard to see whether you're above them or below them in the water. They're really hard to spot. And that's what makes them so safe out there. So there's not really any predators that will eat them in the ocean. Our Australian fur seals we have here won't try and eat a little penguin. A shark won't really bother trying to catch these fast little guys. The only animals they might have to worry about in the water might be a long-nosed fur seal or a leopard seal, but we don't often get those guys around here. So our little penguins are pretty safe in the water. And now that it's dark, they're pretty safe here on land as well. And they're streaming in. They're heading through the little swimming pool that we have here, diving off the diving board. Let's see if a few of them are going to walk right up to the end and dive off. We're very lucky to still have this pool here. Normally, once winter ends, we don't get enough rain to keep having this little swimming pool, but we've had plenty of rain, so we still have a pool. The penguins can keep swimming even once they're across the beach. I think we might have heard how many was in that first group.
We certainly have, Megan. 550 penguins, folks. I think
550.
that's a record on live streaming, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, Heather. A record for our penguin live stream, 550 penguins in that first group. And I might go to our penguin highway camera because there's lots of penguins heading past there as well.
Just when you're doing that, Megan, could I do a shout out to Lee? Happy birthday, because Lee is he watches live penguin streaming every night. So happy birthday, Lee.
Well, happy birthday, Lee. I hope you're having a great night watching our record-breaking number of penguins in that raft crossing the beach. All of these penguins waddling along the highway. They are definitely in a hurry tonight. And you might also see, it looks like one or two, this one over near the window there is going the wrong way. So we're starting to see more and more of these penguins walking the wrong way along the highway. Oh, she's gotten a bit swept up in the group, gotten a little bit confused. And I'm saying she because this penguin going the wrong way is probably what we call a shell gritter. So that is a female penguin getting ready to lay eggs. So she'll be staying in her burrow as those eggs are developing in the few days before she's ready to lay. And she'll get a bit of a pregnancy craving for some shells because it takes a lot of calcium to form the shell of an egg. So she'll eat those shells, get that extra calcium to help build the shell of her egg. And then she'll head back up to her burrow tonight and she'll lay those eggs very, very soon. And they're never ending on this highway cam. I might go back to the main camera. You can see why we call that the Penguin Highway, and it is peak hour on the Penguin Highway right now. And there are still lots and lots of penguins hanging out here on the rocks. We'll zoom out a bit and we'll see if there are any more penguins coming out of the water. Oh, and there's another big group there coming in. That's a big, big waddle. Probably not as big as that first group of 500. There's definitely quite a few penguins there. And they do look nice and chunky. It looks like they're bringing back lots of food for their chicks, those little walking fridges, as they're apparently now known, bringing back that food to feed their babies. So a lot of our penguins at the moment, they do have eggs to incubate, they have chicks to feed, and that's why we're seeing such fantastic numbers at the moment. Let's go back to these guys on the rocks here. And these guys have had a long walk across the beach there, so they're just having a little bit of a rest on the rocks, catching their breath. If you can imagine being out at sea, or if you've had a long day at work, then you have to go to the supermarket, you have to bring home food for your children. You might want a little bit of a rest along the way as you're walking from the train stop up to your house. Have a bit of a rest, have a bit of a socialise before you get home to your nagging kids wanting dinner. So they're all having a little bit of a rest. They're also preening their feathers, so you can see the penguins putting their beaks through their feathers, making sure they're looking nice before they head home. They might be going home and seeing their partner. They might be seeing their chicks. They might be walking past some people, so they want to make sure they're looking their best. So they're making sure all those feathers are aligned. They're getting a little bit of oil from under their tail, putting that through their feathers, making them nice and shiny and waterproof. And you might even see some penguins helping to preen each other. So a little bit of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, getting to those hard to reach places they can't get to themselves. And these little guys, they may look nice and cute and cuddly, but I must say that you definitely don't want one as a pet. So if you do decide to go and donate to our Penguin Foundation and you do adopt a penguin, it is a symbolic adoption. You don't get to bring one of these little penguins home. They are wild animals. They are stinky. They are loud, and they do bite. Trust me, I've been bitten by my fair share of penguins, and it does hurt quite a lot. And I've been pooed on by a lot of penguins as well, and that is very, very stinky. And they are very loud. You've heard their huck, huck, huck. You might have also heard us demonstrate the brrrr, and they have many more calls. They'll be calling out all night, wanting to talk to their friends. So you don't want to have one of these little guys as a pet. So guys, we are starting to come to the end of our live penguin TV, and we've had plenty of penguins we've been able to see crossing the beach tonight. We might have time for one more question before we wrap up. Do you have one more question ready for tonight, Heather?
I do, yes. Cecilia would like to know, do we study certain penguins?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's a good question, isn't
Yeah,
it?
do we study certain penguins? So we do. We can't study all 32,000 penguins. That would be a little bit too difficult. So we have specific study sites. And if I follow some of these penguins going through the water, they might actually be going to some of our research burrows. So let me head over this way. A little bit further. So if you can see some of these wooden boxes right here, we'll see if there's any penguins at these boxes as they go up the hill. These little wooden boxes here, these all actually have numbers on them. And those boxes with the numbers are part of one of our study sites. And we have about 7 of these sites around the peninsula. And the penguins in these burrows here, so you can see the little number on that one. These penguins have a microchip. So it's a little microchip that goes in the back of their neck, like one you might have in your pet cat or dog in case it gets lost. So we can scan that penguin and we know exactly who that penguin is. It's kind of like giving them a little name tag that we can read electronically. So we follow those penguins throughout their life in these study sites. So we come back and check these burrows. These ones get checked about once every 2 weeks to see who's home, see how they're doing at breeding. And that tells us a lot of interesting things about our penguins. We can see what their breeding success is like, which can tell us how much food there is out there for them. We can see fun things like their divorce rates. Penguins do have a divorce rate, and just how healthy they are doing in general. So checking those study sites and those individual penguins tells us a lot about our whole penguin colony of that 32,000 penguins. So that's a really great question. Thank you for that one. It looks like we have lots of penguins going up the hill here. And a lot of these guys going up the hill, they may not even live here at the Penguin Parade. This is a really popular spot to cross. because it is nice and easy, nice big open beach. Not all our penguins in the colony have it this easy. Some of them come in on big cliffs. They have to waddle up those steep cliffs. Some go up this hill, some will have to walk up to 2 kilometres to get home. So some penguins have a really tough journey ahead of them. These guys will probably head up this hill here. They have to cross a road, and then they have to head up a little bit further inland before they do get home. But luckily, all of our roads up here on the peninsula are closed after sunset to help protect these little guys. So even though they have a long journey, it should be a nice, safe one. So we'll head back over to the beach. Before we go, we'll just see what's happening. There's still lots and lots of penguins. And look, we're never going to see all of the penguins. We don't even get to count all of the penguins because they will keep coming in, most of them in that first hour, but some will keep coming in for about 3 hours after sunset. So if you do want to see more penguins, you will have to tune in again tomorrow night. So I do want to thank all of you so much for watching tonight. Remember, if you do want to help look after our penguins and contribute to the great research, conservation, and education work we do here at Phillip Island Nature Parks, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation. You can adopt a penguin. You can become a penguin pal, and hopefully soon you will be able to come visit us. So we're hoping to welcome you all back really, really soon when it is safe to do so. So hope everyone stays safe out there, and I hope you've all had a fantastic night. Thank you so much for tuning in. See ya.
Good night, everyone.